This is the fifth video in the series on outcome mapping and tackles the subject of boundary partners. It's the third step in the intentional design as proposed by IDRC. Now, boundary partners is an interesting, innovative concept that IDRC introduced. It's not unique to them, but they are encouraging you to actually identify the people that you, the program, will interact with. These may be people that you control, or they may be people that you can only influence, and you may have a graduated influence across people. So, for instance, in a rural water supply program installing hand pumps, we have control, hopefully, over our program staff. That may not always be the case, because sometimes we work in partnerships with governments, and actually we only have a strong influence over government counterparts that have been seconded to our agency. And so even at staffing levels, you can assess whether you actually have control or influence over people. And also those boundary partners. So then maybe the facilitators are working with the community, but they're not working with all the community. They're working with maybe a community development committee. So those development committee become a boundary partner to the program, and we can assess our influence on them and what behaviour change we're looking for within them. The school headmaster might be another key boundary partner. There may be the district governor is an important element. Now, other programs talk about a stakeholder analysis, and that's a reasonable element of defining your boundary partners. Certainly in any program you should work out who has an interest in your program, who are the stakeholders. But in outcome mapping, it encourages you to go one step further, not just to define who has an interest in your program, but whether you will interact with that person and whether you expect some behavior change in that program, in that person. Will they actually change as a part of your activities, and will that change cascade onto others? Boundary partners for IDRC, we become part of a network. We have boundary partners, often those boundary partners have boundary partners, and it's sometimes a challenge to know where to draw the line, because perhaps our staff are having influence on the development committee. The development committee is having influence on one another, but also beyond them into the village. Do we count as our boundary partners some key people in the village who are not on the committee but are very crucial to that community owning and accepting and sustaining the use of the hand pump or the rural water supply? Okay, so we've been talking about boundary actors, and this is a village in Malawi where actually we're dealing with HIV, and we have a number of boundaries going on here. So I'm working at this point with an NGO that's working with the Evangelical Alliance of Malawi. So if we turn around to here, we have Matthias, and Matthias is one of the workers of the EAM, and he is working in these churches and in these communities, and so he is my boundary actor because I am interacting directly with him. Now Matthias is working with the various pastors of the churches, and his boundary actor, come this way please, is this pastor. We won't interrupt his talking. Oh yes, we will. Come meet. So this is a pastor, and he is Matthias's boundary actor. Okay, someone he interacts directly with. Now the pastor also has boundary actors. Of course, he's feeding back to Matthias, so Matthias becomes his boundary actor. But also the pastor is working with the people. So if we come over here, for the pastor, these are the boundary actors. These are the people that he's interacting with as part of his congregation. Much more than his congregation. He's doing inter-church work, and he's working with the chiefs. So the chief of the village becomes his boundary actor as well. And yes, he interacts with a lot of the people in this community. So that's illustrating the cascading boundary actors. Personally, I prefer the term boundary actors because the term boundary partners suggests that you are actually partnering with them. And again, IDRC in the next step, which talks about defining the outcome challenge and the progress markers towards that challenge, suggests that you should sit with boundary partners and discuss that at the design stage and work out and get their agreement as to what the changes may be. I think that's unrealistic. If I relate that to my time in a community development program in Cambodia, at the start of our program, our community contacts had very little understanding of what we could and could not get engaged with. We talked about working with them for 5 years to solve some of the community problems. They heard that we were going to come and give them many things, and part of the behavior change that we were looking for there was less dependency and a proactive response to the changing world. So it would have been completely unrealistic to sit with them at the start of the program and to talk about what behavior change we were looking for. However, even 6 months, 9 months in, we could have done that. I prefer to think of it as boundary actors because you're not necessarily in a partnership.